Welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. My name is Benny, that is Dylan, and that is Sal. And today is another episode of Batwatch. Come on, Dylan. Yeah, na. Okay, so we decided it'd be fun to do the last of the live action ones without going into the ones that have recently come out. And that would be Batman 66.
Yes.
I'm going to preface this one. I remember watching Batman 66 as a kid with my dad and having so much fun watching it. Yeah. Watching this movie was a slog. Oh my God. You still had the same humor.
Tough to get through.
But this is the first Batman movie that I was like, oh my God, I need to stop this. Like, I need to go do something else.
I wasn't alone there.
Yeah.
See, okay, I grew up, this was probably my first Batman movie. Ever.
Okay.
And
I've never seen
watch it.
I realized that watching this, not even as a kid.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, then there's no way you could like this without already having grown up watching it. Because
right.
That's fair.
I used to watch this show and this movie a lot before, like during summers when it would go in syndication, and I would like recreate sequences from it. Like it was just a really, it's so child friendly. It is a perfect movie. Like if you want your kid to watch a Batman movie, you want to be like, hey, watch Batman, and not get them hooked on real Batman yet.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you give them this movie because it will give them this. It's like a stage play. It's like watching Peter Pan. Like
you can
it is
tell
just like
that
a bunch
there
of
is
actors
no
in very
budget.
obvious stage costumes.
Yeah. There's no budget in this whole thing.
Well, the budget is in like label making and prop work.
Let me ask you this, Sal, since you obviously have a better memory of the original 66 show than I do. I just have pleasant memories.
I couldn't remember it until I watched it. It was like I was woken up. Like I was 9.
Like a sleeper agent.
It's like, whoa!
Batman 66.
Like, and I started doing lines. Like I started knowing them all. I was like, I was like Jason Bourne. It was amazing.
So for me, this movie, I get the humor. I get that's Batman 66. I'm on board with all of that.
Totally.
The problem I had was that made it a slog for me was the pacing.
Oh,
the pacing is atrocious. The opening of the movie is like 8 minutes of them driving to Wayne Manor, getting out of the car, running into the house, sliding down the poles, getting in the suits, getting in the Bat car, driving I'm not calling it the Batmobile because this one's legitly just a car.
I love that car.
Yeah, that car's amazing.
Batmobile on screen.
But
easily.
They drive that Bat car to the airport. We then cut to the airport, clearing the skies for them. They then get out. We see the whole scene of them running from the car to the helicopter. Yeah. They take off. We see the whole takeoff sequence. They then fly over Gotham, waving at the police and nuns.
There's like a bunch of women just in bikinis for no reason.
It's 66 and Batman's a swinger, so yes, there are going to be babes in this movie, awooga.
But the best part is, I'm not done. We keep going over the ocean. We then spend 5 minutes showing them fly the helicopter to get Batman onto the boat.
The Bowie.
Then we spend 3 minutes of the shark attached to his leg.
Which looks great. I mean, it might as well be Jaws, how good that shark is. I mean, it's just...
The funniest thing is, it's just... The pacing is what made it so painful for me.
Yeah, it's to an adult.
Yes.
It's borderline unwatchable.
Yes.
But if you want to... because it's... You could see the celebration of it in there. Like, they made the car. They made the set. They made those cars. Like, everything about it is just like, look at what we built.
Yes.
That Batcopter, I remember them flying it to a con I went to once. Like, that copter works. And they're like, watch it fly!
Yeah, you could tell all of this was just like stuff that works, that they were like, hey, slap some logos and labels on it. And then now it's a Bat thing.
Yeah.
Now it's a Bat thing.
If this was made nowadays, I would say all of that was for the toy line. But I don't think the toy line was as important back then.
There wasn't much.
Yeah.
The toy, the Mego line, maybe, and that was not tied in with West. So I don't know what they were trying. I think they were just advertising themselves.
Like, look what we made. Look at all the amazing scenes. And I love one of my favorite scenes is right in the opening. The cops are like saluting Batman, and Batman's like...
Oh yeah, no, this is very. It's almost problematically pro cops in this movie.
Yeah, there is a scene where like I think it's Robin who after they says Catwoman like calls them out for being vigilantes, and then Gordon is like, no, they're deputized like police members basically, and then Robin like basically turns to the camera and goes, yes, support your local police. It's like, oh no. Batman and Robin are bootlickers.
I mean, the reality is, like, you know, they're the sergeant or whatever is just like, oh, Faith Magora, I'm every Looney Tunes portrayal of a because it's a cartoon, because that's what, you know, because in the 30s, you know, a lot of Irish were cops, and so.
What about Catwoman's terrible Russian accent?
Oh yeah. Oh, Miss Kitka.
Yeah.
Miss Kitka.
That was the beginning of my development of Russian accent. Was Miss
It was
Kitka.
like Rocky and Bullwinkle levels. It was awesome.
Oh, Rocky and Bullwinkle 1960s, right? I mean, you know.
All right, Dylan, you didn't get what's your obviously Sal loved
Yeah.
it. I loved the idea of it. There's just so many pacing problems for me. What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of it too. I think that I was howling like at the first 20 minutes of this movie. I loved it. I was like, wow, it's because I've never seen anything really from Batman 66. I've never sat down to watch it, so
Yeah.
I was never quite sure if the comedy was like self-aware or not,
Like aware of itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and it very clearly is, and I was like, oh, this is great. And I really liked it, but then it slowly, after like 20 minutes, it's like, oh, it's still going.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
like we're still showing him run to places. Like we're showing the full run, the drive. Like there's more Batmobile being driven in this.
Later in the movie, they do like this rear projection scene of Batman and Robin running to the UN because they're like, we're in good shape. This will be faster. And then they just start running.
And I'm like, I
across
guess you can
Gotham.
this is a movie where we could just say things are happening even though they clearly aren't. Like, I'm in good shape, even though Adam West is clearly
not.
Not in the I'm gonna run to the UN kind of a thing, you know?
No, and you know what that is? You know why they run to the UN? Because they don't have enough movie. Because they got a pad for runtime. I promise you, the show is a little more watchable because it's so shorter, and it.
That's what I was gonna say.
This movie almost takes itself seriously because they dial back a lot of the a lot of the fourth wall breaking that takes place in the show. Like, the show is a lot more just like it's like a theater troupe that goes town to town. That's how this movie looks and how that show was portrayed. You know, it was just set the camera down, have all the stunt doubles just run at Adam West. He'll swing his fist. They'll
oh my God,
just
the action,
move out of the way.
So bad.
But also one of the most ambitious Batman movies I've ever seen. 4 major villains, all on screen at the same time.
That's true.
They all got roles. Joker was the most underutilized out of that 4-man group.
I know. How is it possible that
true.
they're like, oh, and I don't really know what to do with the Joker.
His whole thing was,
just
the
around.
riddles have a joke attached. And that was like all he did.
Like, he's
can we talk
he's
about
second
how-
banana to the Riddler?
Batman and Robin would have not been able to figure out the plot of these 4 villains or do anything about it if the Riddler wasn't giving them the answers.
Well, except that even the riddles themselves are esoteric at best. Like, they are complete insanity, and it's just thankfully Batman and Robin are suffering from whatever disorder the Riddler is also suffering from. So they can have this mutual...
There's a gas leak. Everyone is under the effects of a gas leak in this movie.
See, for me, the problem, I liked this movie. I did in the end. But it feels like it was 3 episodes of Batman 66.
Oh, yeah.
And they needed to turn it into a movie. Hence all
100%.
the padding, which is what ruined the movie for me to an extent.
Yes.
Because I'd get to those padding moments and be like, oh my God.
It's like,
can we
can I
talk
watch
about real
something
quick
else now?
when
Yeah,
Batman's
please.
getting, like, they're literally using Bruce Wayne as a decoy to get the attention of the villains.
Yeah.
And Robin and Alfred. And Alfred's wearing his own mask, by the way, which is awesome.
It is
love
awesome.
that.
I love when they do
It's
that.
so
They would do
cute.
that every once in a while. Either I'm like incepting myself because I remember that being a thing, or just because I watched this movie a dozen times.
Right.
But I do vividly remember Alfred in the mask.
But like, so what ends up happening though, I love that they're like, well, let's give him some privacy while we're using him as a decoy.
Oh, I know.
And then just cut away when the villains kidnap Bruce Wayne. Like, what?
Yep.
There is a lot of weird, there's a lot of weird stuff like that. I think a lot of it comes from Robin, where Robin is like weirdly like socially aware and is trying to be like a good, like at the end when they're about to rehydrate the UN guys,
God.
Robin's like, should we make them more diverse for a better future?
No, it wasn't more,
Batman's like,
no, he didn't say more diverse. He said, should we change some things to give us a better future?
Yeah.
Like, it was, but like what? What are you implying, Robin? Like, what?
I don't know what Robin's suggestion
To me,
is.
to my like 21st century brain, I was like, should we unwhitewash the UN?
Yes.
But then it's like, it's the UN, so shouldn't it already Be diverse.
I think it was like because they're just grains of sand. It's like, well, if I remove this one, it's like that's the racist grain of sand.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
This is the one that's prone to war. Like, I mean, you sneeze and it's just over. I mean, like, look, don't miss any of it. Like, oh,
I love
they messed it up
that
anyway.
rehydrating sequence too was like a 10-minute sequence.
It's 10 minutes!
And the entire world is on Batman's shoulders, who's wearing the bat cowl and cape with a lab coat.
They're so sad too.
Yeah.
That entire once they defeat the 4 villains, that entire it's like a small 4th act is just so everyone's so sad. Batman's like, oh no, we really messed up here. It's like, oh no, why are you so sad, Batman?
Well, because it's like usually my adventures don't get this big. Like it's never about the UN. It's always
usually
like,
the credits have rolled by now.
Yeah, right. By now, King Tut's already been defeated. Like I don't know.
I also loved the. This goes into the Batman kills in every movie. Adam West kills. They literally demolecular. Where did they go, Batman? Well, that's the price they paid. What?
Yeah.
As I'm off to say,
you
are going to lose a few.
What happened to my light?
I don't know.
We lost that.
Oh, my cat unplugged it. Please hold.
But yeah, no, the movie's just.
It's not great. Like it's not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination.
It's almost like Batman's skit linked to Batman's skit. It goes from skit to skit to skit. Like a great example of Dylan and I were talking before we went live, The Bomb. Where he's running to try and get rid of the bomb, and he's like, people, a band, the cops. And none of these people are aware Batman's running at them with
I love
a
those
bomb.
two. I think they're nuns. I love those 2 nuns who just keep showing up no matter where he is.
And even the lake, he's like, oh no, baby ducks.
5 extremely fake wooden ducks in the water.
That's I honestly like the can't get rid of a bomb scene was there's a Christmas ornament of it. There's enough people who remember that sequence, or at least remembering that idea. It is very long.
It is.
You could tell that scene is just them going like, can we make it? Like I can imagine them because I know like a lot of writers, they think that the comedy comes in threes. They love adding more jokes or referring to their own jokes. I can very easily see these people going like, okay, so like the bomb sequence, he runs into the band, he runs into the nuns, he runs into the thing. Can we add 5 more things that he runs into?
Like nowadays, especially like with the advent of TikTok, like I think the prevalence of what is that? What's the term? Like kill your children or your darlings?
Yeah, you got to kill your darlings. Yeah.
Yeah, like
kill
cut
your children,
stuff.
Murder them.
Murder your children
in their sleep. Smother your children. It's called smother your children.
It's very clear now that like you can have a really solid joke that only works when it's quick. And like for me as an editor, I was watching that scene knowing that line was coming, and there were about 5 times where I was like, oh, and here's the line before it actually showed up.
That's right, which is almost funnier than that. Like, it's almost funnier than the punchline, is knowing the punchline's coming.
Knowing it's coming.
And the punchline never coming. That's comedy.
What I also liked, because I like people like to talk about the bat shark spray. Can we comment for a moment that in that helicopter was also an anti-bat manta ray, whale, and like something else spray?
Well, that way it makes sense, because it would be like convenient if you only had shark repellent.
Yeah, just the shark spray. In a helicopter for some reason.
And then the shark exploded.
We only use this helicopter above water.
It explodes.
I exploded. I thought they were even going to reference it. Like,
I'm glad they did. They're like, no, they stuffed it with dynamite. I'm like,
there's so much in this movie of just like things happen that are so absurd and ridiculous, and then they cut to a scene where it's like, oh, well, this happened. It's like when Batman dies like 4 times in this movie, and then the next scene is like, oh, well, like a shark jumped in the way of a rocket or something.
It did.
They kill so many sharks in this movie.
Well, you know, it's the 60s.
Peter would have had a field day if they were around in this era.
That's true.
I wanted to specifically call out the opening credits of this movie because I think they're very, very pretty. And that's one of the few, like in terms of cinematography, it's just such a cool, like, thing. Like, it's just a bunch of, like, colored light. Like, I know it isn't colored light. It's just light that they colored later. But, like, it's cool. It's a neat, like, opening credits thing that could have been boring.
It's a big lie because the movie is just, there's no
nothing like that.
It's like it's like Kevin Smith directed it. Like it's just they set the camera down and the characters walk into frame. Except that there is a little bit of cinematography because every time we cut to villains, there's a Dutch angle.
Oh.
To show that they're twisted.
I didn't pick up on that.
And I was like, oh.
Friggin' Dutch angles.
Somebody went to... somebody watched a movie.
Speaking of the villains, though, I do love
Thor.
That when we saw their hideout, they each had like a shelf with their name on it, like a cubby out of kindergarten.
Yeah. I like that, because Joker's always different. Like, the labels were reversed for him, so it was like... It was like Jokes was under where like Riddles was on the shelf next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, and like Penguins had, what's it, Penguin Food? I think it's what it was.
Yeah, it was just like two big fish. One of them was gone like later in the movie.
I also love the fact that I forgot Penguin did this, but he waddles everywhere.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, no. Yeah. Now, Burgess Meredith is trying. Like, everybody in this movie is giving it their all. I feel like, because my favorite character back in the day for this was Robin. Like, I loved Burt Ward's portrayal of Robin, obviously because he is a projection of yourself. You're a kid, you're imagining yourself as Robin, which is why he's so wooden and miserable in this movie. Everyone else is trying really hard. Like, everybody is, like, firing on all cylinders, and I think it's because they're all kind of, like, being rewarded for being on this terrible show.
Yeah.
That is also very successful.
But we get a movie.
We get a movie. Like, Frank Gorshin's Riddler, my favorite portrayal of the Riddler on screen, including the Batman. He's incredible. He is clearly inspiration for John Glover's Riddler in the animated series. Like, there's so much I like about it. He's the inspiration for Jim Carrey's Riddler and Batman Forever. You can see the inspiration there. I really liked Lee Merriweather as Catwoman. Mine is Julie Newmar. Whatever.
Right. Sure. I did watching this. Remember that they do change out Catwoman's, that they do change out Jokers eventually, don't they? Cesar Romero.
I believe. Yeah. Well, Cesar Romero plays. No, I don't think they replaced Joker. He just paints his mustache.
Batman 66. I thought they swapped him out towards the end too, because I know Catwoman had like 3, didn't they?
Catwoman had Eartha Kitt, Julie Newmar, and Lee Merriweather.
Yeah.
I don't know about, and I thought they replaced the Riddler before, because I know Frank Gorshin's great, and he's definitively the Riddler.
Okay, anyway, Cesar Romano was the only one who played him.
Okay, yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, Romero thought that he was like, there's no way this thing's gonna catch. My signature is my mustache.
And Frank Gorshin's that played him the whole way through. It looks like.
Okay, did he really? Okay, cool, great, good. Then the staples. I mean, that's who's in this movie. It's just the three.
No, there is a second guy. Wait, this is quite obviously a second guy. Who is this? The one with the mustache.
Cesar Romero.
No. There's a Riddler with a mustache.
Riddler? Oh.
Yes, there is a Riddler with a mustache.
John Aston.
Thank you.
Yeah, John Aston was the other one.
Yeah, that was not my not my Riddler.
Not my
Riddler. I also love that this day and age, we freak the hell out if any actor is going to get swapped. But back in this era, seasonally, they would just swap someone else.
Catwoman is 3 different women, one of whom is black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they didn't give a shit back then, but everyone wants to freak out because we got like a black actor or actress to play this role. And back in Batman 66, they're just like, who's good at the role? All right, you're Catwoman.
Seriously,
now. Come on
were just, some of us were just happy to have Batman on screen for the first time. Like, some of us just wanted to see Batman. And honestly, like, as a kid projecting and imagining myself, like, it's easy to imagine yourself as Batman or Robin in this universe because everything is tangible and real and crappy. Like, as a kid, you know, like, everyone talks about how, like, kids are so imaginative and they always have these great ideas. No, they're terrible at imagination. They're awful storytellers. But, like, if you give them the tools like the Batman 66 movie, they can imagine that because it looks eerily similar to their playgrounds and their toys and everything. So it's just like, this is a great opportunity for kids to, like, first acclimate themselves to Batman and have this, like, connection with it because they're like, I can be this, I can do this, I can see it physically. And, like, the Uncanny Valley has spread to the size of the known galaxy at this point in terms of, like, we have as a society given up on trying to make CGI look real. Just given up. We're just like, how will you know we spent money unless it's on screen and it's obviously CG? And it's right, like, look at everything that they make, everything. We're just like, and we always go like, oh, well, I mean, like, the CGI is like okay, I get, and it's like okay, I guess has gotten to a standard where in like 2003 would have been like fake and terrible. Because
you're not wrong. We have gotten to that
because we would have expected them to build something, and it's just kind of cool to watch this. It's like everything in this is built.
That isn't, and this is vaguely off topic, but that's like a reflection of what has been coming out recently, which is, you know,
Disney Plus
COVID-riddled like productions and stuff, which is a whole other. But like, I mean, I think of Endgame, where like basically every character in that movie is a completely CG character because of the suits.
The suits.
And it's just like no one knew that was CG.
Yeah.
And it's like that's
argued
like,
this about Moon Knight. No, they made a practical suit, and he didn't wear it. Like,
they did the same thing with Spider-Man.
Like, who cares
Spider-Man
if they did?
Spider-Man has a practical suit too, and then they overlay it with fake.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So
like,
it looks faker.
And that's like I think people are still trying because we have stuff like deepfakes now, which are now being used in movies and TV shows, and that's such an interesting like you know, the advent of AI is a very cool thing. But like bringing it back to Batman. Like the visual effects in here, because they're so kind of archaic and set in stone back then, they look pretty good.
Right.
Like, the rear projection shots, I buy them. They're great.
That's the thing is,
some of the matte stuff, maybe not.
No, but like we've come out the other side now, where we're like, wow, that really lame fake looking thing looks pretty good by today's standards because everything is fake looking and cartoons.
And we've come full circle because now we're like on The Mandalorian and stuff. We're using basically rear projection just with giant LCD screens now.
HD
which is
screens.
So cool.
It is really funny that we're using rear projection now. And and that sometimes it looks okay and sometimes it looks real bad and it's the same ring. Like there are scenes where I'm like, man, Mandalorian is seamless. And there's scenes in Obi-Wan where I'm like, that's just fake.
Oh no.
How did you guys it's the same room.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Going back, I mean, I just find it weird that we're at a day and age where people freak out because Ben Affleck was getting swapped out with Robert Pattinson. But back then, we have 3 different Catwomans, we have 2 different Riddlers.
Yeah, well,
we had villains like Egghead. Like,
Egghead,
we'll just make another villain, whatever. Egghead.
Yeah, we'll make up our own crappy villain. I mean, they're all stupid, right? Like, that's the approach that they had, clearly. I love it. It was rough to watch.
It was.
And I've never seen the animated sequels because I'm like, but I bet you the animated sequels are weirder and more hardcore. Like they're like, we can finally get away with doing this, that, and the other. It's like when Corridor Digital did like that the Batman trailer where they put Adam West in,
right? And
everyone was like, yeah, bravo! And I'm like, this is stupid.
I don't know. I like it. It's fun.
It was like, I'm like, this is just weird. Like it obviously doesn't work. And it's like, it's funny because it's antithetical to its original premise. Oh, it's the textbook definition of what a joke is.
Right.
This is true.
So, all right. Well, I think we've said all we're going to really say about Batman 66. In the end of the day, if you can deal with the pacing of a 1960s movie, it's totally worth watching.
Maybe watch this movie in a few
they made real movies in 1966. This looks like garbage compared to real movies that were coming out at this time.
I just assumed that was the movies of the time.
No!
I've seen movies of this time, and they're all pretty slow. There's good ones, but they're all pretty slow.
Psycho is earlier than that. Hitchcock was making his bones during this time.
There's always
Star Trek is coming out.
Okay, you're right.
Star Trek
so this
is
is
so
just badly
slow.
paced. This is just badly paced.
Yeah.
No, you do not badmouth Star Trek, youngin.
Exactly.
People like it. That's fine.
Yeah, people like it.
We gotta save the whales, all right, man.
Yeah. But yeah, no. But listen, if you want to watch, it's more like watch it. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly came out in this year. If you want to, if you want to watch, it's more like you're a historian or an archaeologist. Watch it like that.
That's fair.
It's fun.
It's just a long version of the show. If you like the show, it's just Batman skit after Batman skit is basically because at first the villains all take turns too. So it's like, all right, Penguin's gonna do his thing. This is the Penguin moment.
Yeah, that's right.
If you watch this, not making yourself finish it, like if you watch it and then just turn it off when you start to get bored, go for that.
You won't miss a thing.
Yeah, we couldn't because we have to review.
We had to. Yeah, no, I will say they're also outside a lot more in the movie than they are.
Yeah, it's daytime, like the whole time too.
Yeah, which I like. No, it's never
probably
nighttime.
a budget thing.
Yeah, Batman doesn't fuck. Batman needs his 8 hours of sleep, man. How do you?
Yeah, he needs 8 hours. He needs his.
And so do the villains, because the villains don't function at night either.
No, they don't. No, he needs his food pyramid meals, circa 1966, and his 8 hours of sleep a night to put on that bat physique.
Of course,
that is not unlike my own. Like apparently, I can be Batman. Yeah. But there we go. Batman
So what's
66.
next? Have you agreed to watch Lego Batman next? Is that the next
I think
one?
Lego
Being
Batman's the
animated?
That's the next one, yeah.
Okay,
Let's do
we're doing
that.
Lego Batman next on Batwatch. Thank you guys so much for watching this. We'll see you next week with Lego Batman.